Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Dogman. This is the second of the Dave Plakey, I guess, DreamWorks movies. I guess it's about 8 years since the Captain Underpants movie, and this is not really a follow-up. Maybe the reason it chose to be the way it was because of that movie wasn't a huge success. I don't know. But this is just sort of a big, epic, silly Saturday morning cartoon made by a guy who is a veteran of the original Tiny Toons, has been a comic animation writer for a very long time, making his sort of feature film animation debut because he did Country Bears before this, which this is like a good kid animated comedy that would probably play early in the Saturday morning lineup. It reminds me of things like Sonic Sat AM and all the OKKO influences and things of that nature. And I had a great time seeing it with my kids. Actually, I got the Dogman popcorn bucket. So I have 2 popcorn buckets now, along with Mystery Science Theater. We had a wonderful time, and they loved it. And keep saying things like seriously, and the announcer, the newscaster in the rain go, "This is so serious, that's why I'm not holding an umbrella." And it's a very funny animated kids movie, very loose and kind of wonderful because we don't get straight up like animated comedies like this. It's like sort of like the Garfield movie and stuff like this. This is the kind of movies as a dad, I take my kids to, is the silly cartoons, which I usually like because they're far more experimental. There's more cutting, there's more random jokes. It sort of, as a viewer, kind of questions the whole idea of media and makes you kind of question what you are seeing, or be centered and believe, most media, it's like you understand it's a house, or everything makes sense. You won't suddenly be thrown by like a random joke or animation change. It's what I liked about the Captain Underpants movie. But Dogman sort of doesn't do that, and it's still a good time, a really good animated film. But I think the idea of what it could be, I feel like sort of messes with it a bit in my mind, especially when you compare it to the Captain Underpants movie. Now this is about a police officer and his dog who were in an accident, and the people who once he's sent to the hospital, him and the dog decide to put the dog's head on the man's body, even though the man definitely has dog paw hands, but you just sort of let that go. And then in a weird, they definitely reference RoboCop. Nobody says I'd buy that for $1. Sorry, he goes to his old house just like RoboCop did in the Verhoeven movie, and everyone's gone, and he's obviously traumatized because his life has changed, just like in RoboCop. And I was like, why are we referencing? I don't know. I appreciate it. I don't think anyone else in that theater got that. Maybe some of the kids did. I don't think my kids did. Then they have to stop Petey, who is a evil cat who's wrecking destruction on the town, doing all this evil stuff, and they have to sort of find out what his evil plan is, as Petey tries to clone himself and make little Petey, who's an innocent kid cat who asking questions and sort of messing up Petey's evil plans as well. So I think everyone's sort of major sort of gripe with this movie, and let me say, I do think this is a good film. If you want to see a Dogman movie, it's a good Dogman movie. It's a fun animated comedy. Everything I said is still true. However, the way Dogman works and how I've always understood it to work, and I've read through one once in the library. We haven't gotten into the Dogman books as much as Captain Underpants, but in the book, it's a comic made by George and Harold. Whereas Captain Underpants, George and Harold make comic books, and they came up with the idea of Captain Underpants, but that is not the comic that you are reading. Dogman is a comic that they created under I think it's Treehouse Comics or whatever. That is not in this at all. In fact, if you just saw this movie, you'd have no clue in the books that, this was sort of, how Dave Plakey, whatever, decided to continue this franchise, was have a comic that's written by George and Harold, which would have been a cool thing. I'm not saying you had to get Thomas Middleditch and Kevin Hart back. to do the voices or something like that. But like, it would have been nice to have that in there, because so much of the world of the OK City, whatever it is, looks through a kid's view, which I think works as an excellent perspective and an excellent kind of theory behind it and all that stuff, which I think like even grown-up movies don't have that. But it would have sort of given more of a looseness, which I quite liked about the original Captain Underpants, or the first one, because it does have that sense of experimentation, because you have things like suddenly it's puppets, suddenly it's this animation, suddenly that happens, and it does still have that in the animation. This is very cartoony, silly, loose style, but I do feel like it's missing out on that experimentation that the original, that the like other Captain Underpants has. I'm sure nobody goes to these movies for the experimental film qualities, and I'm not trying to like oversell it, but I do think it is a cool idea for kids media to not just like let them be kind of submissive viewers in a sense, which is what I like about showing my kids like Looney Tunes and other stuff. It's to sort of like constantly be making them be able to question the media that they are watching, and if there's a sudden change, you do start to question it. Whereas if you watch most kids stuff, it's like, you know, a simple set, they have the same locations they go to. I understand budget limitations and those people aren't really good at being creative, but there's more to, no, I'm being a dick, but it's kind of true. It's like, we do that a lot. I understand there's financial limitations, but at the same time, it like the fact that that's so much of the media we all consume and stuff, it does worry me, because we're essentially just seeing like know exactly the kind of shots and everything we're going to see, and not being surprised at all as a viewer, not being challenged whatsoever. You're kind of just like submitted to this media. You're just basically like accepting that it's going to wash over you, and there's comfort in that. But I don't think this is good for kids, because you should grow up like having some media literacy. I know people are sort of against media literacy, particularly most people consume it, but I think Dogman could have done more of what Captain Underpants does. It doesn't, and it's not really that set in its ways. I mean, there are certain locations, you know, but it like definitely messes with itself quite a bit. It has random funny things happen. It's a little more expected, but I think I actually like this more than the Garfield movie. My kids had a fun time. We had all this popcorn, so, you know, can't be that wrong. And Swedish Fish, we did. Went a little crazy, but you can't, you know, if you're gonna have candy and popcorn, Dogman's that kind of movie. I think it's a really fun animated film. We don't get a lot of them like this. I think these kind of things get sort of underappreciated, because it's not trying to be super serial. It's trying to be it's not trying to be super serialistly. It's trying to be fun. It's trying to be silly. It's trying to mess with your expectations, which I like about it. And I like Peter Hastings, who I thought did a good job of directing this. You can tell he's a veteran of this kind of animation. I think his only previous, he wrote an episode of the Captain Underpants cartoon, but he did work on Tiny Toons. He worked on a bunch of stuff, and it did remind me of Tiny Toons, the original Tiny Toons, to be totally honest with you. And I liked Little Ralph Howery, was great as the Chief. Isla Fisher. It is like the first time I've actually liked Pete Davidson in a movie. I thought he really worked well with it. Even, I don't think I've liked Ricky Gervais in forever. They all sort of worked within what you wanted it to be. This is a fun movie. It's fun to watch kids. I watched with my kids, and we had a grand old time. We're still saying serialously and all that, but you know, it's fun watching a dog like bark at people, or like the scenes you've seen, like the squirrel thing and stuff, is actually like whether it's distracting him from the monitors. It was like, it's actually kind of a smart visual joke, because at first the whole joke is he's getting distracted, but he is getting distracted from PD stealing this thing, and you're kind of watching two things. It's like making you move your eyes all around. Anyway, there is a lot of like actually smart visual stuff in this, which I actually thought was really fun, and it's actually a great movie to see. I saw it on the big screen, even though it's been on VOD, but I wanted to take my kids to see Dogman, so I was like, I'm glad it took us a while, but I'm glad we did it. And I do think it works within that Captain Underpants style. Like the animation style very much looks, I know Animat said like it's like the Blue Sky Peanuts thing, and I agree. Like I like this kind of CG animation where they like do different character designs. They don't all look like the Pixar Pixar, Illumination, whatever style. It like has a totally different character design and stuff, and exactly like his, which is very 2D style, which I think is why the comparison to the Peanuts movie, which I do really like that animation style. I thought it worked well. This is one I would gladly have on 100 times. It's like a fun, silly movie. It's pretty harmless. Everything it's doing that's weird, it's like kind of in a good way. Yes, I would agree that the actual plot of Dogman is probably like darker than it doesn't stop to make you think about it, other than the obvious RoboCop stuff, which I was like, I'm here for this, but like weird that like you pick the part where he goes to his house turning into RoboCop is like, I'm surprised that's the part you remember. But it's also like they don't bring into question, they never tell you how long Dogman is in surgery, so you don't actually, like in RoboCop I think it's like a year or something, and in Dogman you don't know that at all. It's like sort of like he's just suddenly a Dogman. But maybe when you have things like the plant, things that make things alive, and like the cat plays with laser pointers, and so, I don't know, it was a fun movie. I don't know if it like really had a plot. I don't think it was saying anything other than trying to recreate this, although I would argue it didn't, because George and Harold were not in this, and I think that is like it's the major problem with it. But I still had a good time. Like if this was on, I would watch it if I was a kid and this was a Saturday morning cartoon. I'd probably, this feels at home with Eek the Cat and Tasmania and the Cartoon Network stuff. It like flows within like the best of what you kind of want these sort of things to be, and that's what you want from Dogman. This Dogman's the best Dogman you get. Dogman's a good boy. I think what it's probably a little more freer than most animated films want to be and is, and that's something I think I like about it. I think maybe I'm asking it to be something more based on the other Dave Plaikey, I guess that's his name, movie, but at the same time, like, you should maybe not be disappointed by what it's adapted from. Or I shouldn't be disappointed by what it's adapted from and the other movie, because I had a good time with my kids in a movie theater. That was really cool, and we got lots of popcorn. And if you want to have a good time with Dogman, eat a bunch of junk food and just chill out with a silly cartoon, this is like a perfect one to do it for. So under that guise, yes. Under the guise of any comparison to that other movie, probably not so much. But either way, I think you'll have a really good time with Dogman. So if you've seen Dogman and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.